So for those who watch my channel, you're all aware that I do quite like a little bit of XRP. You know, I did a long-term analysis on this one before it started to break out, and it's working out so far so good. You know, it's doing pretty much exactly what I expected, more or less at roughly around the same times. So I still hold that analysis relatively strongly, which would point to an XRP around about $4 at its next all-time high. And I mean, like, it should achieve that. I'm not saying that that's the top, but it should achieve that target at the end of its cycle high. And it does have its own 4-year cycle, just like Bitcoin is, you know, currently still has a 4-year cycle, but it runs differently because there's no halving event to trigger this. And you could argue that largely it's going to be tied into whatever it is that the market's doing as a whole, which I kind of agree with, and you can't argue with. But also, you know, it's got a different trajectory to it. So you know, rather than going into massive detail about the overall cycle of XRP, in layman's terms, it spends 3 years consolidating from a high and 1 year more or less recovering up and then going parabolic. Now, in the last cycle for XRP, it started on a high, and then basically consolidated for a long period of time, and then it had what is, I suppose, the fake out kind of situation. So we see that this was the consolidation after the beginning of it. XRP is older than this chart. This chart doesn't give it the absolute top. The top was higher than that before, and this is a log scale. If we turn that off, we can see, you know, obviously how dramatic the actual price action really is. We have to put it on log scale just to really see it. In fact, what we'll do is we'll turn it off, and then we'll have a look at what you know, something I suppose that might show put this into context. So remember, XRP began over here. It was higher when it started and went down over a more or less a 3-year period. Then it started to get interest into it, and it went significantly high very fast. The market cap for XRP back here was a lot less than it is right now. Plus, the use of derivatives wasn't available during this period, and neither really was Tether. So it really was an investor's opportunity, if anything, rather than a trader's. Although it could be traded. So yeah, the moves that we see are a lot bigger, because this is the equivalent of a small cap altcoin these days, which does do these sort of moves. You do see this quite regularly in altcoins, but you won't see this so much anymore with XRP because the trading volume is so high. So this is the deal. This is the market cycle. So 3 years consolidating from its high, which was around about over here when it first started, going down ever since, and then having this fake out over here. This fake out then retraced massively, and then ended up with a giant parabolic top. So let's just put it back on the log scale, and we'll have a look at what this retracement actually was. You know, this isn't the parabolic top. This is the parabolic top, but it's harder to recognise that on the log scale. Turn it off the log scale, you can see that the differences between these price actions are obviously quite large. So we put it back on the log scale. We'll just measure this move out. So we had our parabolic move up. We're not interested so much on the move up as too much on the way down. This is 71% retracement from its top to its bottom before it went on, finished its final move up, which was quite large, you know. And again, the log scales can be deceiving, but it's a 2,600% move, so a 26x. So not too bad from the bottom down here. So not too bad at all. And then what happened? We spent 3 years consolidating all the way down to where we accumulate and then start to go back up again. And you know, I've said it for a while. You know, we will reach a particular high point where we will end up having a retracement, quite a large, sizable retracement, where we will reaccumulate. And from there we will find our launch pad to move up again. So, thinking about what it is that we're going to be doing now, we have to think about where we're going to go down to. So I just made a video on Bitcoin about how we may be entering a bear market, but even if we're not, we're definitely looking like we're going to come down further. And if we're looking at this chart now, we have to consider that this is going to go down further. And if we think about areas that we could go down to, we have to look at where we've been in the past. So basically establish a support and resistance. Now, one thing that I like about XRP, and one thing that I've always liked about it, mostly because it's an old chart, is that it does it does often respect the chart, whether you're in an uptrend or a downtrend. So there are certain areas of support and resistances that do get respected lots of times, and that's one of the reasons I like it. This is a good example of this. Okay, so we've got this this upper accumulation period, this lower accumulation period. This is where we came out of the parabolic high from back in 2017. We had a consolidation, which then went into an accumulation. We're going to have to zoom in on this one a little bit further. The accumulation began around about here. This is where we accumulated into it, and then we ran all the way up. Now, if we think about where this accumulation came down to, this is the lowest point of the accumulation down here. Of the reaccumulation, it's also the top of the accumulation. So the top of the first original accumulation and the bottom of the lower reaccumulation. This is also where the FUD drop more or less bounced from and bottomed out at. So you can see that the top of this accumulation is now the bottom of this accumulation. Is also the support of such a phenomenal drop, a drop which people said is the be all and end all, never coming back from this ever again. However, it did. It was tampered with, manipulated by the retailers with that pump group, but even so, we're not particularly bothered about that. This is the interesting thing. Previous resistance flipped to support, even held in support at this level here. So this zone down here is tangible and something that we can think about, that it might end up coming down to 21-22 cents again. It might do that. It might do that. If it did, that would be a buying opportunity just for a decent knife catch. I'm not saying that it will come down to there, but we have to consider that. But what I'm trying to show you is that how XRP likes supports and resistances, likes to respect the chart. It does have rhythm to it, even though people just do not recognize it at all. At all. The reason I've always thought that this is good, especially coming into this zone here, is because this represented exactly the same kind of behavior that it did previously on the chart that we've just looked at, on the long chart here. So we'll just take this off. We'll zoom in over here, and this is kind of the vibe that we were getting in the previous run. So consolidation, smaller period of accumulation, fake out, reaccumulation, finish on the high. So this is kind of what happened here. So we've got the consolidation, small reaccumulation, fake out, reaccumulation, then go on to the all-time high. That's how I'm expecting this to play out. It feels like to most people at this stage in the market where everything's going down, no one's really catching a break, that this sort of thing will never happen, and that's the sort of, I suppose that's the psychological problem that most people have when trying to trade or even to just invest. They can't see the bigger picture, they fail to recognize the cycle, and all they see is the price that's taken place when they wake up in the morning and look at it and go, oh my god, it's down again, oh my god, it's down again. They only see the price, they don't see the direction, they don't see the cyclical event that takes place, they don't see the patterns, they don't see the supports, the resistances, none of that gets seen, they only see the price on the day, and I can understand that. It takes a little bit of time to get your head around charts, understand what they're doing, especially long-term charts like XRP with massive volatile moves up, kind of moves in many ways unlike the rest of the market. The rest of the market had a period of uptrend throughout some of this period, and XRP continued to go down. So I get it, I completely get it, why XRP is a very unpopular coin amongst many people, and probably because it doesn't make people that much money unless they're able to trade it. So I completely get it, and I'm prepared to hear all the abuse in the comments. That's fine. I'm used to that. So the idea is, okay, we're going down, the market's going down, so XRP is not going to be immune to that. It will go down with the rest of the market. That's understandable. And so where are we going to go down to? So we think about where the most the strongest areas of supports, because there's not really any areas of support beneath more or less where we are at right now, which is where we are right now is the top of the previous peaks over here. And again, it's a bit of you've got to slice through it, so it's not perfect. You can see, all right, this is more or less the top. We had resistances and supports and a breakdown here. We also had resistances over here and resistances over here and a breakout. So we are at a resistance right now. But if this does break down, we're probably going to come down for a steeper drop, and the drop looks to me like around about that 42 cent zone. Which to me it seems relatively strong because we had previous supports here. We also had previous supports here. This is the reaccumulation zone of the last reaccumulation zone before it did its last big run. So 42 cent, more or less, give or take. If that breaks down, then this is, as I suppose, a bit of a hopium kind of a vibe. 29 cents, 30 cents. It's not very strong. It is what it is. It's not great. It's not very strong. It's an area which might catch a bounce because it's a psychological number. People like that kind of thing, especially people who like XRP that aren't able to trade. They will think about 30 cents and go, well, that's a nice round figure. That sounds about right. We'll go in there. That sounds okay to me. People like round numbers. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. I'm teaching her to count. She likes her round numbers. Do you know why? Because she's got 10 fingers, and you learn to count on your fingers. And things aren't. When you start moving outside of those easy figures, things become a bit more complicated. And so people like round numbers. People always call for $1, $10, $100, $100,000, 10 cents. Whatever. They always like to go for the round numbers. You see it all over the place on Twitter. But that's not how the real world works. I mean, there are a lot of... it's a psychological number, which means that it will probably catch a bounce there, but it's not a real area on the chart, so it's unlikely to actually hold there if we do come down to there. We will probably find ourselves lower. Now, I'm talking worst case scenario here. Remember, I've just said that we are at a decent resistance right now, and this is a decent resistance right now, and this is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in resistances on the way down and supports on the way up. So just because I'm talking about more resistant supports on the way down, sorry, not resistances on the way down, we are at support now. The reason I mention all these ones further down is because we have to mark them out. We have to appreciate that this could come down further and further and further, and if we don't plan for these, then you're trading blind. So you have to plan for them. Like I've built up quite a lot of XRP just in this last dive down, just to use on Bybit for derivatives. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I know that a lot of people want to do that sort of thing. I generally don't do it, but given the fact that this is a volatile asset, and it's it's got specific areas of support and resistance that like to get respected, even in the worst case scenario where the rug gets pulled from beneath its feet through SEC and a giant lawsuit. Everything generally gets respected with this chart, so it makes it a decent chart to trade. Surprisingly, if you're going to trade an altcoin, this is one of the better ones to trade on the long term. I'm not talking about short term 25x leverages. I'm talking about 2-3x leverage, from a very decent, strong area of support on a daily time frame. You know what I mean? But again, I'm not promoting the use of derivatives or leverage. I'm just saying that a chart like this, it's quite good for that kind of vibe. So, like I said, I don't want everybody to shoot me because I've said something bad. Remember, I've given you the upside. I've given you the market cycle. I've told you what I expect of this, which is that it will end up with a new all-time high towards the end of this year. It's going to follow the market overall. That's how it's going to work. But it will, if the 4-year cycle continues with Bitcoin, it's certainly going to continue with XRP. And XRP is doing exactly what it did pretty much to the month of the last cycle, which is do a giant fake out with an enormous retracement, reaccumulate for the majority of the rest of the year before it goes up to make a new all-time high. That's what I'm expecting to take place here. So I'm not a mega bear, but I have to recognize that this is a bearish looking chart. The market is also bearish. If we go back to the Bitcoin dominance chart, this also emphasizes the fact that this is how I expect the altcoins to behave. Bitcoin dominance goes up, altcoins are going to lag behind. Top cap coins might trend with Bitcoin to an extent, but Bitcoin will outperform, whether that's in a safer place to have your money in the face of a downtrend, or if everything goes into an uptrend, Bitcoin will outperform the majority, as the Bitcoin dominance is very low right now, and it does have areas before it gets rejected. First is going to be at 52%. The next and more likely area for a decent rejection is going to be around 56 to 58. That's where we're likely to see the next alt season. And this is kind of how I'm expecting it to play out time-wise as well as your support and resistance-wise. We're not going to find any alt seasons until we get to a higher area of Bitcoin dominance, which in my opinion is likely to be around this area here, around this time as well, around September, October, November. But wherever we are by the time we reach this zone over here, we can entertain the idea of alt season again, like a prolonged period of alts gaining against Bitcoin. We can't really get an alt season at this level, not really. we can have alt rallies, but we can't have an alt season. So this also ties into the idea of the market cycle with XRP, and further downside certainly more possible with XRP, but an overall finishing point where we enter into an alt season where XRP does actually go finally to the moon. And by the moon I'm talking, $4 is my expectation, but it could easily go a lot higher than that. It's difficult to put a price on where it's going, but $4 seems pretty reasonable to me. Like, that should get taken, and we'll see where we go from there. When you get into these high levels, what, $4? Okay, fine. If it goes parabolic, even if it just does another measly 100% move from that, what's that? $8. Well, it doesn't take much for it to make significant moves when it gets to these highs and go parabolic. But in the short term, this is a tradable asset for those who have the skill and I suppose the knowledge and the experience to actually trade and use derivatives in a downtrend. If you don't have that kind of thing, then I would say just don't try it. All right, just don't try it. There's plenty of gains to be made in everything once we've reached an area for a buying opportunity. And again, if you want to place it, dollar cost averaging on the way down and things, that's fine. Don't rush into things that you don't fully understand. Honestly, just don't do that. The best thing to do is to try and learn it. But an XRP to me is a good one to learn because it does have very good supports and resistances, and it's also a very old altcoin, which gives it, to me, a bit. It's a bit more. It's mature. It's a mature asset. It's a mature chart. As far as these charts go, it's one of the oldest ones, which means that with the more price action, the more price history that it's gone through, the more reliable it is, I suppose, in terms of charting it out, on the long term, which is the best way to do it. So I'm not a mega bear. I'm actually quite bullish on it. But right now, you have to look at this and go, well, maybe we should entertain the idea that we will come down to the next level. 42 cents, that's fine by me. Again, if we do come down to 42 cents, even if you buy there and it goes lower, I do expect it to 10x from that level, maybe by the end of this year. But don't quote me on that. We don't know how the year's going to play out. If we go into a bear market, it might get considerably worse. But so far, you play the cards you're dealt. The cards we're dealt right now as bearish cards. But there is, amongst all of that, a little bit of hopium, which is that this chart likes to respect supports. We're at one now. Here's another one. This one's a bit of a silly one. This one's a very tangible one. And again, they are very far down from where we are right now. But we have to we have to understand that this is cryptocurrency. They make big moves, both up and down. And that's why we like them. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. But thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice weekend and take it easy.